So very honored to talk with three distinguished panelists today. Welcome today. The topic is harnessing Hong Kong and the GBA SEA startup ecosystem for global expansion. Today we gather to explore the immense potential of a vibrant startup landscape. Just now we can hear speakers, welcome speeches, and you can understand what Hong Kong actually is going through. It's a vibrant ecosystem and there's lots of opportunity as well. And of course, this cannot be worked out without collaborative efforts and also to propel our companies onto a global stage. With a lot of unique resources in Hong Kong, and especially the government actually injecting a lot of fundings and resources. And then we have a lot of global strategic partnerships and supportive environment. In that, we can overcome a lot of challenges and drive innovations. So today, we are very honored to have three very distinguished panelists. Maybe we start with introducing themselves. Colin, would you spare a few minutes to introduce yourself and your company and what do you do? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Good morning, everyone. My name is Colin Ng. I'm the founder and CEO of Causeway Bay Biotechnology. We are a company focused on transdermal drug and cell delivery. We're a company born out of the City University of Hong Kong. I did my fourth master's degree in biomedical science at City U, but also my partners and many of our team members are from City U and other universities in Hong Kong and around the world as well. Basically, we translate university technology into something that is of benefit for the society. And we're a young company. We started in 2021 and now have expanded into Greater Bay Area, the mainland China, and beyond as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I pass the microphone to Carl.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carl. I work for a company called Wellbeing Digital, acronym WBD 101 if you want to Google it. We are in the business of doing non-invasive sensing. I'm sure we all know your Apple Watch can sense all the wonderful biodata that help you understand your health. But we chose to do it in the ear. Many years ago, we started doing the ear. And eventually, time proved us right in the sense that, number one, signals that you actually get from the ear as it's closer to the brain actually is reflective of, for example, your cerebral oxygenation. Signals that are getting from the ear has higher stability because you cannot move your head in 360 degrees in X, Y, and Z axis. So from that perspective, we created this earplug that we both license, and also we create our own devices that we deploy for mainly out of hospital use, and we can elaborate that later.
Okay, thank you, Carl. And then lastly, we would like to invite Bong, which is from Deloitte. Could you please introduce yourself and also your company?
Donna. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bong. Actually, I've been working in Deloitte since I graduated. It's almost my number 28 years. So it's quite long, actually. Yeah, in my first 10 years, I was in Hong Kong office, and then afterward, I transferred to Shenzhen office. Before the COVID, I'm going back to Hong Kong. So I should be the one know very well about GBA. And the thing is, over the years, Deloitte has tried very hard to make innovative. One of my major role in the Deloitte is I'm the lead partner in our Science Park office. In last year, 3rd of March, we opened our innovative office. The office is about 14,000 square feet. It's 100 people full-time working there. That office is completely show our commitment to our IT ecosystem. We don't have any professional service team there. We only have an innovative service like AI. We have a dean. We have a whole team to research our own AI product. We have a ESG team. We have the smart city team and also our ESG team there. So first of all, I thank the good work from Anita. We just met 2 days the second time here, and we work very hard and try to work together, of course, with Science Park and also with the Hotel Science Park to make the collaboration with the startup. So we basically commit our team to try all the best for assist the startup. I can say the message I would like to deliver to the startup in my beginning of the message is this the Harvard year, the best year for startup to make the business in Hong Kong. Thank you.
So we have a very interesting panel today. We have a biotech company, we have a health tech, and then we have Bong, which provide professional service. So, and then they share similarities because they all based in Hong Kong and headquarters in Hong Kong. So I would like to start with the conversation with both Carl and also Colin about, basing the company actually based in Hong Kong, but they both actually went through experience of expanding from Hong Kong either to China or to Asia. So may I start with the conversation with Colin? Could you please share maybe in the early phase, how your big expansion to out of Hong Kong, how, what is the challenges and then what did you go through?
Okay, thank you. We actually expanded out of Hong Kong in midst of COVID, and it was driven by the situation at the time. We opened our first company in the Greater Bay Area in Guangzhou back in 2022. At that time, we needed to do animal experiment or mouse experiment, but a lot of the laboratories, researchers in Hong Kong got infected, and so I had to. I was quarantined for 3 weeks before being able to go to Guangzhou. Not only Guangzhou, but Shenzhen. I basically searched around for the right partner, the right lab to carry out experiment, and I found one in Guangzhou, and that's when we started the company. So our first company in the mainland was in Guangzhou. It helped us in carrying out those research. But later on, I also found out that in order to develop whether it's biotech, whether it's medtech, a lot of our supply chain, it's not just, Hong Kong is very good with, it's an international financial center, but Hong Kong does not have a lot of, for example, pharmaceutical factory or suppliers. So when you need to build your supply chain, a lot of your supplies of components or pharmaceutical ingredients is actually in the mainland. And so I think that's where we can make the best out of it. As being a Hong Kong company, Hong Kong can be the international gateway, the super connector, the financial hub. But when we need to do the manufacturing or the supply chain or the research, we can go to GBA and beyond as well. Because even especially in the mainland China, the eastern part of China, Shanghai or Suzhou or Wuxi, they have been developing their biotech and device industry for over 20 years, which is a bit more ahead of the GBA, but GBA is building up quickly. So that's my experience so far. Thank you.
Okay, so let me turn to Carl, because I think for Colin, it's more the experience of going into China, but I understand your experience is actually beyond, maybe in SDA. Do you share similar experience as Colin mentioned just now?
Actually, Southeast Asia, in a sense, is as tough as, if not tougher than going into China, because of the income range is very different. Okay, I think we can all agree. Certain advanced market like Singapore, we can, it's probably on par with Hong Kong. Other markets that, like for example, Thailand is very inspiring in that sense. But other, if you go down to Indonesia or certain Malaysia, for instance, the money dries up in that sense. So not to mention that when you talk about Southeast Asia, the different languages and culture appears as newer challenges. So one of the way that, of course, we try to do is we pick a few spots. You always have to pick a few spots. And I think traditionally, for a Hong Kong company, the first spot, given the income similarities, is try to go Singapore. And then from Singapore, you try to radiate to the other regions. Of course, the similarities, of course, in terms of English as a commonly used language, but and also the fact that Singapore is always looked upon, maybe not immediately by the other ASEAN countries, but as the kind of flagship in terms of trying new things. So we did it there, and we did quite a few trials there, and we will talk about the kind of challenges, further challenges that we face. But essentially, how do you get local, whether it's Singapore, Malaysia, or Thailand, in a sense, the institutions there, the hospitals, to be willing to conduct trials for you? As the healthcare business is still very, it's a very closed system, in my opinion. If you look at inpatient use, for instance, there are a lot of existing incumbents in there. That's not going to make your life easy if you're trying to go in there as a new product. So definitely, leveraging on institutions or partners like Science Park, partners like Hong Kong MU, partners like Singapore NUS. Those make things easier in a sense.
So we heard the consideration of setting up plants and also expanding your business. I would like to invite Bong to comment on it, because your company actually specialize in helping companies like Collins and Cows. So in your perspective, do you think what is the key factors should companies or innovators consider during the early days when they plan for expansion out of Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think for the early startup, the thing is most of the startup the entrepreneur they are focused on their technology. They are not. I think they need to spend more time to understand the ecosystem and also find a partner to assist them, because most of the knowledge. I can give you some example. I'm sure that most of the startup doesn't know that now Hong Kong have more than 40 funding can be applied for the startup. It's from government, from university, from many different associations. And also, as Anita just mentioned, there's a patent box just launched. We are already transfer our UK team to Hong Kong. That patent box is not the new thing to UK or Europe, but that's a new thing in Hong Kong. Then we have a special team to assist them. You may think that startup not necessary to use the patent box because they are not profitable at the moment, but that's a preparation for the startup. A lot of things need to make things, particularly the corporate structure and the tax jurisdiction, the planning, the thing. We need to they need to find a proper professional party to assist them. And I can share some experience. Some of the startup, I was the jump starter judge from day one, and I from the first year I was also the judge for the biotech sector. I encountered a lot of the company. I reviewed their financial forecast. I can tell most of them is not reliable, because most of the startup not even know that they don't have a license. They are not allowed to do business in China because it's restricted business. But the entrepreneur doesn't know that. But we can assist them. We can tell them. Yeah, we have a team there. We have a team in Hong Kong. Even those, we have a global team, tax team in Hong Kong. They are sitting in Hong Kong. We are the only Big Four have that kind of arrangement. So I can. The final message is I would suggest the startup to get in touch more like Science Park. And also the business association, the professional firm like us, then get more intelligence.
Yeah, thank you for the tip, and then it's a good advice for innovators. So I would like to do a deeper dive on resources, since Bong also mentioned there's funding, and also there's other considerations like talents and other like infrastructure, etc. So Colin, could you share a bit, how during your earlier days of expansion into China, so how do you effectively secure and also leverage the resources that you required, into your expansion? Entire expansion plan in China?
Okay, thanks. We expanded into the mainland from Hong Kong, and we are very grateful for the ecosystem partner that Hong Kong offers, from City University Hong Kong Tech 300 program, from Science Park ideation program, and also the Hong Kong government ITF have all supported us, and we're grateful for that. That provided the early funding that we needed to go into China. And right now in China, we are talking to different local governments that may offer us some support as well. It's very interesting you mentioned about talents, because when we initially look at where to set up our first company in China, we were considering different cities. In particular, within the GBA, Shenzhen and Guangzhou are very often two choices on the top of many people's mind. But when we thought about, okay, we're in the biotech space, we need people in this space. What made us chose Guangzhou at the time was because Guangzhou has more university, especially on the medical side, or the pharmaceutical side, that can produce the talents, whereas at that time, Shenzhen was short of such talent as well. So it's a very good point that you made. But now, Shenzhen is quickly building up its university, and also now with COVID behind us, there's more talent that can travel across the border. So that helped the situation as well.
Very interesting. So, Carl, you might experience differently because you know your unique challenge actually is in the digital health sector, maybe slightly different. And then, what resources do companies like yours, during the expansion phase, how do you effectively implement, solutions into SEA markets? Can you share a bit about your experience?
I think like the previous speaker, Ms. Chow mentioned, digital health is a very, very arduous and costly venture. 8 to 10 years, perhaps like she said just now. So definitely the relation, so first of all, you need, of course, money, right? Second of all, it's the kind of relationship that can help you get into whether not only the SEA market, but also the GBA market. Relationship in terms of helping you get to trial, whether it's for your research trial or your clinical trial. These are certainly very costly. And sometimes, unfortunately, institutions, hospitals, they probably don't work in the same kind of time scale like entrepreneur would do. Things tends to be longer. It's not 6 months. It's sometimes 3 years. Unfortunately, this is how, but from the other perspective, this is just how health, when it comes to health, things has to be careful. So we collaborate with NUS, we collaborate with UKM in Malaysia, we collaborate with SGH in Singapore, CUHK in Hong Kong, Metropolitan University in Hong Kong. So this relationship help us, in a way, get more insight to what potentially is ahead of us before we step onto the landmine. Of course, being in Science Park, I want to also elaborate something that Bong mentioned. A lot of time, entrepreneurs, especially since you're doing a since you're doing an innovation, it's engineering, it's innovation. And so it involves a lot of engineers. And in that sense, you don't stick your head out and talk to people that can help you, then you're gonna one day thought that you have built a better mousetrap, and then you looked up and said, oh, wait a minute, how do I sell this? Because you don't have a license to sell, for example, right? Or you don't have the channels to go in there. Yeah. So actually through Science Park, sorry to do some advertising for Science Park, so we got into outpatients products, for instance, to institutions like the Hong Kong Police, Hong Kong Sports Institute, to the Prince of Wales Hospital. So these actually became our first testing point, and so that we can leverage it when we go into whether GBA or Southeast Asia. And of course, in Southeast Asia, the collaboration with the local universities there in Malaysia or Singapore, that also kind of helped things further. So money, relationship, to do trials, and eventually to do channels, because you don't just do trial for the sake of doing, right? So you need to know that you can sell, right? So those are the key things that I would share with you.
Wow, it's like money, relationships, channels.
Yes.
So, Bong, from a consulting perspective, there's numerous resources, and also, all the startup and companies actually had to go through a lot. So, how your company, do you see what type of resources do you see actually is essential for companies to develop robust business? How do they prioritize? There's so many things that they need to consider.
I think, some of my experience I encounter is some of the startup entrepreneurs, they always think how to extract the money. But I think the other way. As you can do your product good, the money will attract to you. And also, one of the things is you should not just doing alone. You should have a cooperation with others. Innovation must be cooperated. Otherwise, your industry, your technology doesn't know by the other people, your business cannot go. And the thing is, you have to get into the ecosystem. What I suggest is just like I'm the one of the Federation of Hong Kong Industry subgroup chairman, which is the professional service group. I'm not sure you guys know that they have they already approved the Legislative Council have a new subgroup called Group 33, I think. It's a biotech group. They have most of the entrepreneurs from biotech, from Science Park, they're also the member in that subgroup. Though the whole Federation of Hong Kong Industry is more than 2,000 members. They are all from different industry. So for startup, they need to know different people. And also, what we can assist, we have a lot of clients in different background, different jurisdiction, different geographic. So as long as we think your product can suit our client, we are more than happy to introduce. That's the key role of Deloitte to act for. And then the other thing is, because we also know a lot of the investor, particularly the strategic investor, I would suggest to more pitching with the investor. Get the experience. Failure is get the experience. So I always encourage the startup to meet more investor. More pitching, then you know how to get the money. Thank you.
Sure. So in this session, actually, we can kind of draw a conclusion of, like, for innovators, if they want to expand further, talk to, fellow innovators, like experienced innovators like Colin and Carl, and also talk to professional service so that you can actually work out what is the priority, because there's a lot of challenge. Talking about challenge, let's explore a bit, because based on your experience, Colin, biotech sector, what is the primary challenges, whenever you try to scale up your innovations, especially in the GBA? Do you have any experience to share, how with the fellows innovators here, how they can overcome obstacles, like, for example, related to maybe regulatory approval or market entry?
Thank you. Thanks for it's a very good question. I think regulatory, it's definitely whether it's biotech, whether it's medical, whether it's health, it's a heavily regulated industry, and you need to know your market, you need to know the regulations, and think ahead as to the pathway, as to your product. Is it a device? Is it a drug? What type of device? What type of drug? And I think that's all very important, because that is going to map up your pathway. In the past few years, after COVID, or in the middle of COVID, the funding situation, it's been a challenge for biotech, medtech around the world. It's not only in Hong Kong or China, but now with the US Fed's cutting interest rate, with China easing monetary policy, I think that situation would somehow improve. But still, and it's good to hear a few days ago that the chief executive announced in the policy address with new funds being set up to invest in venture in startup as well. So I think things are moving in the right direction. But still, I totally agree, Bong, for example, that startup, we need to go and meet a lot of investors, participate in competitions and events as well, because a lot of those competition and events, like Jump Starter, for example, it's attended by many investors and industry partners as well. So that's definitely important. The other thing to think about is that right now we're living in a world where there's growing competition, maybe the word between certain countries, and for example, there are certain countries that are beginning to sanctions others in the biotech space, or in that would cause disruption in the supply chain as well. So when you think about your business, your products, how to build your supply chain, you really need to have a think, because you need to think about the potential risk of disruption. If you rely on a certain supplier that doesn't have a lot of alternative, it is from another market, then is it going to let's say if you get sanctioned or your supply chain gets sanctioned, how is it going to affect your business? That kind of thing, I think we just need to think ahead and be mindful of in the future.
Thank you so much for your tip. Kyle, you are in the digital health sector. You have other specific challenges, like, for example, like data privacy or even compliance in that aspect. So, do you have any tips for other healthcare startups? How do they effectively navigate these issues in order to expand regionally or globally?
First of all, I think besides what Bong mentioned about the Federation of Hong Kong Industries, Chapter 33, Section 33, there's also the Hong Kong Medical Healthcare Device Association. Rupert is over there, Vice Chair. So these associations actually, in a way, help you because of the kind of camaraderie, the kind of collaboration, help you navigate potential landmines. And therefore, the first thing, participating or joining these sections are important. Number two, also, I think in terms of healthcare, I dare say that Hong Kong government in this part of the world is one of the best supporter, no matter whether it's all the 40 funds, no matter whether it's the announcement by the chief executive. I compare with the other markets that we are in. For instance, if as a innovator you have a new product, and the first you have done your R&D, you want to look for someone to trial it. In Hong Kong, there's a trial scheme called the Public Sector Trial Scheme, where you can get a hospital or universities to do a trial, public sector trial with you, and up to $1 million Hong Kong dollars, fully reimbursed. As we speak, we are having a trial in the Prince of Wales for sleep-related detection. So again, and there's no limit per se as to how many times you apply. There's no limit per se as to how many companies are allowed every year. Unlike, for example, in Singapore, there's a program called CHI, the Center for Health Innovation, at the SEL program, that limits to probably 6 per year. So in that sense, Hong Kong is very, very strong supporter. Second of all, I think some of you may have heard of the regulation for the importation of drugs and devices into the Greater Bay Area that apparently will be officiated in December 1st this year. Again, this is another channel because when you look at the Greater Bay Area, again, we talk about income level, it's very similar to Hong Kong. So again, we talk about innovation. If this is a new tech under this, then it's much. At least there's a channel to get in there. One of the last one is about one of the commonly asked question about data privacy. For instance, we all know that even in Hong Kong is part of China, but data collected from mainland you cannot come to Hong Kong and vice versa. Luckily, the Amazon Web Service is everywhere. So we, so we need to. And so data in terms of different countries, so we're going to manage that in that sense. I would say to a certain extent, it's overblown in a sense because there are certain mechanisms. For example, you can anonymize the data. For instance, it's only for the usage of the hospitals, and data don't necessarily come out, so to speak. So there are certain control points in that sense. So it's not too worrying an issue as far as what I saw.
Okay, so it sounds like summarizing what Carl has mentioned and also Colin. It seems like we are actually in a good place in Hong Kong in terms of resources, and then there's different types of support actually you can get, and then good access to investor as well. But at the same sense, Colin also mentioned some potential challenges, like he mentioned about like sanction and the political environment, etc. So in that case, I would like to invite Bong to comment on it. How companies like startup companies, how could they better position themselves in order to attract like investors and in such a competitive landscape, and then that also might potentially face some political environment impacts as well. So how could they better position themselves?
I just mentioned before, they need to get the professional people to get the advice. I can't agree more about the data security. That is very, very important. You know, just like some of the technology company, they choose either listed in Hong Kong, US, or mainland. That kind of thing of particular fundraising. I know that some of the European fund or US fund, they are not invest anymore for some of the mainland data security. That kind of the company, that's kind of a sensitive, particularly if your supplier or your customer, even under the sanction list, you may also get in trouble. So therefore, that kind of thing, the company or the entrepreneur need to really aware about this and get to assistance from the professional party to handle the data and also the IP. That is very, very important. You know, some of my experience, some of the startup, they become ready for M&A or ready for IPO, then they discover that they have a problem about this. Then it takes a lot of time to fix it. It's not easy because your structure, everything is already in plan. So therefore, startup not only just focus on business, also to focus the structure, the data, the IP, and then in order to, because you know that kind of thing is also will deeply focused by the investor. Once they due diligence their business, they will discover that kind of the issue. So they should tackle in the early stage.
Well, there's a lot to consider. Even IP, we haven't covered it, but apparently it's another very critical topic that the startups have to think through. So talk to Bong whenever you need. In our policy address in last 2 years, there's a huge, discussions about about talent. So I would also like to invite both all of you to comment on talent. You know, Bong, for example, like when you, how do you face the challenges that's about talent acquisition and also retention? You know, I heard about a lot of companies in a very specialized field, like difficult to get the right talent. You know, how do you manage? This is apparently also a challenge, right?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's indeed a very good point. And since the Hong Kong has launched the talent scheme, we have definitely seen a lot more experienced candidates coming to Hong Kong, and the talent pool has definitely grown as well. But still, it is not easy to necessarily find the right one. But at least the pool is much bigger. And in fact, I've spoken to the relevant government departments before and suggested to them that to expand the list, because right now, for example, the high talent scheme is focused on the top 100 universities in the world, but there are pockets where certain specializations, there are universities that are good at particular specialization, not necessarily on the top 100. But definitely it is, we see an improvement, and I think we're heading in the right direction in terms of, we've seen, for example, qualified doctors or pharmaceutical engineers or people like that Hong Kong currently do not produce enough of, or none of the Hong Kong university, for example, has a discipline or has offered any courses on pharmaceutical engineering. But we see more of those kind of talent coming to Hong Kong, so I think it's definitely a positive.
Carl, understand that majority of your workforce actually based in Hong Kong. You know, can you share how can you build this sustainable workforce based on the challenges that with the talent acquisition, and also how do you retain your talent?
Well, first of all, yes, I think used to be we have like a 80-20, where 20% of our workforce, our colleagues are in China, Shenzhen. Now the ratio is probably 60-40. So if the talents don't come to us, we go to the talent, yeah. So therefore we're expanding our Chinese, our operation across the border. Overall, there needs to be a balance of culture. I mean, even though it's a one country, but the culture is still somewhat different. How do we maintain a working environment, not only within the individual offices, but also in terms of when both office interact, the working style, the time, the language, for instance. This is certainly not easy. There are obviously a lot of things that we can learn from a lot of established companies. I think perhaps the Deloitte also have free lunch. Or yes, yes. So we learn from them. And maybe one day we can join yours, right? Right. And so make it a but in the mainland, we all know there's a 996. You work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days per week. In a way, this is very tough, but in a way, I would also say that that's why we see China has grown leap and bounds. Chinese do in 1 year what many other locations or countries do in 2 or 3. But we are not necessarily advocating that we all do the same. I mean, Finland, with a much easier working environment, is the happiest country in the world. So there's definitely a balance. So we are, unfortunately, we have to constantly look for that balance and make it a good working place. Then that's how you can retain colleagues.
Yeah, Bong, you just mentioned earlier that you have a UK team actually moved to Hong Kong. So it's also a talent kind of acquisition. So could you also share in your perspective in the professional service or what other advice you can see from other for the startup companies as well?
I think I think this the Carl and Colin already mentioned. We have a mainland to support us. There's a strong supply of talent, and I would recently I just read the article from. It's very interesting story. This it's mentioned by the global technology CEO. He mentioned there's a new product they launched in US. They have idea initiative. They ask the engineer to come to discuss. There are not enough people to sit in the conference room. Then they go to China. The number of engineers can sit in 4 or 5 football stadiums. that means we have a strong supply and talent in China. They work very hard. So just like we have a different team, even though we have a 33 office in the mainland. So I think for talent pool, we always have a supply from mainland. Yeah.
Okay, we have covered a lot. As we conclude this session, may I invite all the panelists here, to share your final thoughts, on the most critical actions, what the companies or innovators should take in order to thrive the expansion out of Hong Kong. What is the message would you like to leave to inspire the entrepreneur today here in the audience? Colin, please.
Thank you. I think it's a very good point, and I encourage all my fellow entrepreneurs and innovators to look beyond Hong Kong. Use Hong Kong as a base, as it may be your head office, but there's also lots of opportunity, especially now with the Belt and Road Initiative, whether it's from mainland, Southeast Asia, or even in the Middle East or other parts of the world as well. So I think there's plenty of opportunity. Use platforms like the Science Park or the HKSTP or other platforms of Brinc, and talk to professional services firm like Deloitte as well. There's lots of support offered by the Hong Kong government, and like Carl has mentioned, different schemes. You may have to learn, but those provide a good funding for. I know it's challenging for startups to try and raise funds to do your R&D, but Hong Kong does offer a lot of support as well. So I would encourage my fellow entrepreneurs to look around, and with the GBA and with more collaborations between mainland and Hong Kong, there's more opportunity as well.
Okay. Thank you, Carl.
So if you go down a path less beaten or a path not beaten, you will find that you are the pioneer and life is going to be very tough, especially in the digital health business. If you go down a path where you see already someone in the front kind of showing you the way, then again, it's very tough because of the competition. So I guess the balance comes when you have a unfortunately, I also have to say that perhaps, I dare say, perhaps 80% of startups are having solutions looking for problems, unfortunately. Not many people are like Steve Jobs, where he can find the problem and then he invented that where you open up the page that we all went, wow, like 10, 12 years ago. So when you are a solution looking for a problem, then you need to talk to people. You need to open up your mind. You don't be, you want to work, you want to focus on core competence, but at the same time, you don't want to be too fixated on core competence, because there are certain applications that your technology may be able to do that you don't know of unless you talk to people. So as I am also the advertising guy, I just want to pull this out. So this is where we developed this very tiny ear plug, where we try to solve things like sleep. We try to solve things like detection of heat stroke. You can imagine detection of core body temperature. And then someone approached us. They are in the business of helping women get pregnant. So again, basal body temperature. I said, wow, okay. I mean, coming from a guy, what do I know, right? But if they say this may work, why do I say no, I don't want to do that. So I mentioned sleep. I mentioned and also, so we chose this path of putting in the ear because a lot of times, and we had this conversation before, Donna, where you monitor and you detect, and then what? You have all this data. We all talk about your watch give you 24/7, and then you send it up to the cloud, and then the doctor will tell you something. Did you pay the doctor to help you analyze your 24/7 data? So we decided to choose this because, and then instead of doing a 24/7 kind of application where you put on your earphone, you use it for different, for instance, if you are doing a rehab session, then it's like a 1 hour. If you're doing a sleep session, it's 8 hours. If you're doing for construction safety, because in construction site, people die because of heat stress, people die because of they fall. So this is like, again, 8 to 10 hours. So it's not like necessarily a 24-hour type application. So choose your market wisely. So we chose this. Earbud is the biggest market. I'm sure like probably 80% of us have a pair of earphone in your bag. Probably 40, 50% have a watch. So we chose this path. This seems to be everybody's doing earphone. But then I don't think any one of you know of someone who has a pair of earphones that can detect your vital signal and tell you, hey, your heart rate is too high, you better slow down. Or tell you that, hey, your body temperature is, you should cool down a little bit. Or tell you that, hey, your basal body temperature is high enough, it's time to get pregnant, for instance, right? So I don't think you have that. Anybody, but that's where we are focusing. Something very common that we don't really notice, because earbud is part of our life. And wow, you can do this. I'm sure there's a portion of you who doesn't know that you can actually detect all these vital signs from earplug as well, besides the watch. So choose your path wisely. Be open to ideas.
Okay, Bong?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, another thing is, because, startup is only got limited resources. So let the professional thing, the expert thing, to the expert party. And also, I would suggest the entrepreneur to listen more the successful startup entrepreneur. Let's listen what they've gone through, how they become successful, what kind of the people they assist them in the world and the path. Then learn and can get the thing to implement in your startup. And I give you another example. In the science park, there's a unicorn company called SmartMore. In the 3 years ago, before COVID, I met them first day, introduced by one of my colleagues in Hong Kong. So I immediately find that startup have a lot of potential. So what we assist them, first of all, immediately I introduce a family fund to them. Number family fund, they immediately invest about $10 million US. And then we introduce our kind to them. Even I introduce our Japanese team to them because they want to have a kind of the automotive service proposal in Japan. And also we issue the white paper together, to publish the white paper together, because we have our research team. And at the meantime, indirectly, you will see the SmartMo is the first company that IC invested. Our family investor introduced them, they directly introduced IC to them. So that's we are assisting the startup in different stage. Now we will introduce them our China service group. Our China service group, all our major office in the world, we have a China service group. They serve the company from Hong Kong or mainland, which is our local people working overseas office. That's the people to assist you to know the local ecosystem. I think you know that there's a 5 startup sent by StartmeupHK for 6 months in Silicon Valley now. Once they land, I think first or second dinner of the 5 startup, our U.S. China service team is already there. We arrange a lot of investor roundtable and also the kind of a business our kind introduced to them. So let the thing our people to do it. You focus your business, and then let the people know that your technology.
Thank you. So as we harness the potential of Hong Kong startup ecosystem, let's continue to collaborate, innovate, and support each other. So together, let's embark this exciting journey, and let's give a round of big applause to our panelists today. Thank you so much.